Hello, my name is Elena Marcosi, and today I'm going to talk about how racism takes place in my everyday life. So, every week I drive in my Toyota Corolla on I-75 to get to work, school, or just to visit family. I speed past a lot of cities without really blinking an eye, and I'm mainly focused on just getting from point A to point B. And I really don't give myself a chance to think about how my tires can be rolling over the ghosts of these old neighborhoods, like Black Bottom or Paradise, that were destroyed in the process of creating this highway. And for example, these Black communities were destroyed in the wake of the Federal Highway Act of 1956, which displaced a lot of people from their communities and their homes, disrupting their economic flow. And in truth, I think that everybody is always in search of getting from point A to point B. But for many, the gap between those points is systematically wider and much more treacherous for those without a vehicle to take them there. African Americans in the city are more likely to use public transportation for several reasons, such as the expensive cost of insurance within the city of Detroit. And if you look into history a bit more to explain this, Mayor Coleman Young started this kind of initiative to revitalize the downtown area of Detroit back in the 1980s by installing public commodities like the People Mover. The theory is that through increased economic activity in Detroit's downtown and shopping district, then that in turn can be transferred over to other parts of the city with the needed funding, such as Detroit public schools, infrastructure, or transportation. Through many of these initiatives, they are marketed as helping people in Detroit in generalized terms, when in fact there's a specific group of individuals who absorb the immediate benefits of these actions. There are false notions that characterize the People Mover or the Q Line as sufficient transportation proposals, when actually they only cater to a specific type of traveler. And this traveler being the suburbanite who wants to come downtown for a good time, maybe see a baseball game, and then head back up Woodward for getting the rest. It's not made for a city dweller who needs a ride to work in a more serious manner. And many of these people work outside of the city in the suburbs, and it is very difficult to travel to these areas through the irregular and inefficient bus scheduling and the surrounding infrastructure that makes it even more difficult to travel. Another point is the idea of privatization and exclusion. If you look at before the 1950s, streetcars were main form of public transportation, and they stretched much wider than the Q Line did, going straight up and down Woodward and other streets. But to focus on Woodward, we can take a look at a map from the early 1900s and show that in comparison to a more recent map of the busing schedule or the busing stops for a fast bus on Woodward. And you can compare these two and see that there is not a stop in Bloomfield proper. Now, there may be one in Bloomfield Township now, but in Bloomfield proper, there has never been a stop on the streetcar or on the bus stop. And I think this shows the historical evidence of the privatization and exclusion of this neighborhood. The type of European ideals that were started way back in the beginning of America are still continuing to this day of keeping people out. And this can be very difficult for people who ride the bus in order to get to their work in these areas because they are excluded, yet they are needed there for their hard work. So in conclusion, I think that there's a lot to be done in terms of transportation in this area, and obviously the legislation is very difficult going through different counties and different cities and trying to get them all to agree on a singular plan. But I think it is possible that there can be change done in order to make people's lives much easier and help them get from point A to point B as efficiently as I do in my glorious Toyota. Thank you for listening.